Welcome to People Don't Think. Let's Start Today, a podcast hosted by Norb Svanascini, founder of AmericanEagle.com, and Al Edwards. Norb, every day is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And here we are today, once again.
Absolutely. And it's a really interesting day today in Chicago. It's kind of windy, and tomorrow we're supposed to get some snow, and we haven't had much, so it's kind of nice. I like it.
Yeah. You know what they say about Chicago weather, that if you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes and it will change, right?
Exactly,
kind of thing.
exactly.
So, well, friends, it's great to be with you again. We're so excited. This is podcast number 14, so we're really on a roll here. And if you've not had a chance to listen to our other podcasts, we certainly invite you to do that. We cover a lot of interesting topics. And today's episode was really inspired by a book that Norb had brought in. And I don't know the exact title, but the basic title was, If I Knew What I Knew 25 Years Ago, if I knew what I knew today, 25 years ago, how life would be different. And that's really the theme of today's show. You know, there's an old expression that says, youth is wasted on the young, right? And, you know, this old world that we live in is pretty complicated. And it takes a number of years to get experience and wisdom in this world. Some of us have it a lot sooner than others, some later, but it doesn't matter. It eventually comes. So we thought it would be fun to talk about a number of things that if we had known when we were much younger or earlier in our lives, what our lives would have been like, how they would have been different. So do you have a couple you want to start with, Norb?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because hopefully some young people are listening to this, and I heard on the radio this morning that 7% of the teenagers in this country think about committing suicide, which is really a tragedy. So, you know, the one thing that I think young people should do, so, you know, I'm going to give you a tip since you're young. So in 25 years, you say, God, I'm glad I did this. You know, be thankful about life. Life really is miraculous. And one of the things that's very important, because you have such negativity today in the public and on TV and on everything. Stay away from negative people. I have to tell you, something occurred to me the other day. I saw a Whirlpool, and I thought, you know, this is exactly how negative people are. They create this whirlpool of negativity that just pulls you in. And it's very, very hard to get out of because, you know, it's very, very strong. And one of the things that I can recommend to you is stay away from people that do not make your life happier. That is a very, very important thing. Now, you know, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it might be a friend of yours that is down, and he or she complains about everything and sees everything bad that's going on for the world. Those are the kind of people that really are little whirlpools. And when you get a bunch of them together, they create this huge whirlpool that drags you in. So I hope young people today in their teens, and if somebody's listening to this in 25 years, they'll remember this and apply it to their life. You'll be a lot happier because, you know, when you think about thinking positive, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? Just think of that. Well, the alternative is really be miserable. And I don't think anybody likes to be miserable. So thinking positive starts obviously from your own feelings, but stay away from these people. Stay away. That's the best advice you can give. And if I learned that 25 years ago, I would have been more positive than today, if possible.
Wow. I think we could just end the show right there. That's the greatest advice I've ever heard, actually. Stay away from negative people. I mean, you talk about the whirlpool. You're right. They're going down, and they're going to take you right down with them in the whirlpool.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw that in a movie, a whirlpool, and I thought, God, you know what? This really transcends into
Absolutely,
negativity.
for sure.
They suck you in, you know?
Well, let's talk about that. You talk about young people and emotional problems that young people have, and we all have, we're all human. I'll never forget years ago, and I'm sure you still have it on your desk, Norb, and your son Tony, I believe, has one too. You have a little handwritten sign on your desk that says, "This too shall pass." And that had a huge impact on me throughout my life, seeing that on your desk all these years. And I never quite understood it until I became older and really saw the wisdom in that. And, young people get in a lot of trouble and sometimes make tragic decisions because they don't have any perspective about life, that things are going to be okay in time. So let's talk about this too shall pass. Whatever problem you're facing, this too shall pass. How have you applied that, Norb?
I think it's a very good. Well, the story behind that, as it's told, is that King Solomon, thousands of years ago, was the head rabbi in the Hebrew nation, and he had a lot of problems. And people would go up to him and complain about things. So he called a meeting of the most learned rabbis in that part of the world, and he said, I want a solution for this. I have all these problems, and I have to have a solution. So they retired, and I don't know how long it took, but they gave him a ring with the inscription, "This too shall pass."
Wow.
And that's where it came from. And it has really helped me, because whatever happens in life, this too shall pass. I mean, just that's the way life is, There's problems and challenges, and we got to meet them head on.
Yeah, and having that perspective at the time seems to take the intensity out of it. Like, okay, maybe it's a serious problem, but this too shall pass. You'll get through it. You'll survive it.
Yeah, and you should face up to it. Norman Vincent Peale had a great, great story about, he grew up in a farm, and they had cattle. And when he was young, there were big, big snowstorms. I think it was in Iowa. And some of the cattle would go backwards and go with the storm, and they would finally get to the fence and basically freeze to death.
Mm.
And the other set of cattle would face the storm and walk towards it, and they all survived.
Interesting.
And I think that, we humans have to use the same type of approach.
I love that story. I've never heard that before. Well, as always, every chance I get, I love to pull out a quote from Henry Ford, as you know. You could be walking down the street talking about trees, and I'll somehow mention Henry Ford. But he said, an airplane can only take off when it is going against the wind and not with the wind.
Well, I happen to be a pilot, and I have to correct Mr. Ford as much as I love him.
We may have to edit this one.
You can take off with the wind, but it takes a lot more runway.
There you go.
And you might not make it, past the fence and crash. So
gotcha.
It's a hell of a way to do it, to go against the wind.
So, in other words, you can take off a hell of a lot better and easier against the wind, just like the cows that face the storm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you told me that, actually. I didn't realize that was a little bit of an inaccurate thing, but I should have known better saying that in front of a pilot. So, another thing that we've been thinking about as far as what things we maybe would have liked to have known when we were younger. Norb, you talk about this one a lot. It's okay to make mistakes and fail. How do you think people can apply that to their lives, and why is it important to know that as soon as possible in life?
Well, because failing is a way to learn. Whenever you do something wrong, I mean, we've all done it. I don't know about everybody, but I've measured a lot of times to put a picture up on a wall. And I measure the daylights out of it, and just make sure that it's from the bottom and from the top. And then I put the nail in, and the thing just isn't right. So I learned, not to make that mistake again, and just be much more careful. And, that's what life is. And going back to Edison, we always keep saying Ford and Edison, obviously, and they're like, the prime examples of failing, and not stopping that they succeed. And, failure is a part of getting experience. And, the word experience, it starts with EX, and it's the same as experiment, EX. So the more you experiment, the more you get experience. So, look at it as a good thing. Most people that fail haven't tried anything. So,
Right.
They're a failure to begin with. And if you fail, you're not a failure because, you've tried. At least you tried. So it's that's the most important thing.
That's a great way to look at it. If you have never failed at something, you're not living your life as you should. Right?
Right. It's kind of interesting because I was just reading something from the Mayo Clinic, actually. So this is all from doctors and people that are very, very smart and everything. And they actually have a little article in their site that says putting positive thinking into practice, which is kind of interesting. So they have a negative self-talk. These are things that, for example, you say, I've never done it before. Now, if you think positively, you say, gee, this is an opportunity to learn something new. The other negative is too complicated. Well, tackle it from a different angle. I don't have the resources. Necessity is the mother of invention. It's not resources. I'm too lazy to get this done. Then say, I couldn't fit into my schedule, but I can re-examine some priorities. Now, when somebody says I'm too lazy to get it done, I have a quote that I really like, and you have to use your imagination for this one. And the secret of success is contained in the name of a very famous Spanish painter by the name of Goya, Goya. And if you remember that encapsulates the secret of success. Get off your, and ankle is not the A.
Or anchor.
Yeah, or anchor, yeah. So, really just
oh my God.
God gives you two things. A head with a brain, which comes free, and it has the capacity to know everything there is to know if you use it. And the other part of your body is to sit on. Now, your success depends on which one you use the most.
Oh my God.
It's just that simple. That's all.
This is the greatest podcast we've ever done. I'm telling you, we're on fire today. And there's a reason why your head and your keister are so far apart from each other, right? Because you have to use one or the other, basically.
Exactly. Now, I don't, there's nothing wrong about, sitting down while you think, but make sure that the upper exceeds the lower.
Right. And it's important to think when you sit down, too, because, you don't want to fall.
Now, the negative person says there's no way this will work. The positive says, I'm going to try to make it work. Negativity is too radical to make a change. And the positive guy says, let's change it. The other thing is the negativity person says, nobody bothers to communicate with me. And the positive guy actually tries to find a way to communicate with the other person. And if you think you're not going to get better at doing something, give it another try. So this whole section ends with practicing positive thinking every day basically helps your health. And even this is the Mayo Clinic. This is an Al or me, which we're big believers in this, obviously. But if you want to have scientific certitude by people that are in the medical field, I don't think you can get any better than the Mayo Clinic.
No.
Yeah. So,
although hold the Mayo, that's usually good for the diet, right?
You should, because too much Mayo can actually makes it kind of messy. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And it will get you into the Mayo Clinic if you don't hold the Mayo too much. But ironically,
that would be funny, to go to Mayo Clinic And they say, "What's wrong with you?" I say, "I've had too much mayo."
I bet a lot of them patients over there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about, don't worry about what people think of you, Norb? How can we apply that in our lives, and why should we have known that so many years ago?
I think we talked about this last. We're all a miracle. We really are. And you know what's interesting? One of the things I wanted to talk about, which is kind of crazy, because I try to look at positive in everything I do, which is I had a root canal done a couple of weeks ago. And it's not a pleasant experience, but now, they take x-rays and they have all these machines and really interesting. And you're watching this, and, this guy explains about the root canal and how the bone structures on your tooth and how your tooth is made and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, two little eggs meet, and in 9 months you have a human that has all this stuff. And if you don't think that's a miracle, you're an idiot. I mean, I really believe that. So,
with all due respect,
yeah. It's just amazing. And this is a tooth, and just look at the rest of your body. I mean,
exactly,
it's incredible.
How did the root canal go? Everything work out okay?
Yeah, really good. It was rerouted.
There you go.
Yeah.
I had a root canal a few years ago. It didn't go very well, and I'll tell you, that's the last chiropractor I went to either.
Oh,
that was.
I know.
Next time I was recommended a dentist to do a root canal. But, people worry about that so much, what other people think of them, and boy, I'll tell you, I've been plagued with that in my life. As you get older, it seems like people care less about that, worrying about what other people think about them.
Well, I think it's being narcissistic, that we all think the world revolves around us, and it doesn't.
Right.
I mean, the world really cares very, very little about you or me, or hopefully if we can influence people in being a little more optimistic, we contribute something. But, we're pretty insignificant. I mean, in 200 years from now, my life and your life will have as much impact in the world as an ant.
Boy, that's kind of true, but but we're very important with the people around us and the world we live in.
Oh, no,
kind of thing.
Absolutely. But by the same token, that ant is just as important in the
right.
The whole universe and how it works. And Einstein said you can look at anything as a miracle or not a miracle.
Right. Everything's either a miracle or it's not a miracle.
And I think we live in a miraculous world, and we have this time period that we're on Earth, and we have to make the best of it. We have to enjoy it.
Absolutely. But you're right. I mean, problems from 100 years ago don't give any credence today, do they?
No, not at all.
That's the thing about how some of this ties in together, like the "this too shall pass" kind of thing. Yeah. Let's talk about telling people you appreciate them, and ties in with the golden rule, Norb. I know you talk a lot about the golden rule, basically that treat everyone the way that you'd like to be treated. So why it's important to tell people you appreciate them, and why should younger people know that and apply that in their lives?
Well, if you respect the idea that, we're all a miracle, it's nice to appreciate miracles. And obviously there's some miracles that, going back to stay away from negativity, in the persona, stay away from these miracles that'll drag you down.
The negative miracles, stay away from them. That's the trick.
But approach people just like you want to be treated, and if they respond, you've made yourself a nice acquaintance. And if they don't respond, it's their problem. It's not your problem.
Right.
I mean, no, there isn't one person walking that has 100% acceptance from other people in the world.
Right.
Nobody. Some people didn't like Marilyn Monroe, and I never met a guy that didn't like her.
Well, there's that is for sure. There's no question. But You've talked a lot about the golden rule. Just be nice. You know, I always think about this story you told. You were in a restaurant with your wonderful wife, Charlene, a number of years ago, and there was a sign that said, be nice or get out.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I heard another thing where it says, treat everyone like the king of the world, and you will go really far in life because you treat everyone the same with respect and love and courtesy. And no matter who they are, treat them the same way, whether it be the cardiac surgeon or the janitor, because both are incredibly important.
Yeah, and we talked last time we did this. We talked about Japan, how the Japanese society respects everybody, no matter what kind of work they do.
Right.
But I think just to respect people in general, they're a human being. They're no different than you. They get up in the morning, they have to wash their face, hopefully, and they have to dress, and they have to look outside, see what the weather is. And this is one of the things that, talking about a positive life, is, I do thank the Lord every morning for this gift he gives us, which is a present. That's why they call it the present. And it sets you up in a good mood. And one of the things that was kind of interesting that I heard this week, on a positive note, on television, there was, I believe it was the CEO of Spotify, and it's a lady, and they were asking her, what are most of the downloads? And she said, amazingly enough, most of the downloads are from music from the 50s and 60s.
Wow. Just like you talk about.
Just like I talk about, and it's interesting because when you play those kind of songs, what a wonderful morning from Oklahoma, I mean, Gordon McRae, which very few people probably heard about him now, was a heck of a singer. And he sings that song, and you just can't help but feel good. You just can't help but feel good. Even if it's snowing and it's cloudy, but he sings it in such what a beautiful morning, that you just feel going out better than if you listen to some of the stuff that's being sold as music today, which is, part of the Whirlpool.
Exactly. And I think there's no doubt that you can program your brain. I listen to music that I enjoy, and it puts me in a better mood. I drive a lot, and I listen to Audible in my car, and I have all these books. And every morning on my way to work, I listen to a little music, but then I make sure I have at least a few minutes where I will listen to Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, a lot of these other types of people that are related in that field. And it energizes me to go into the office and be happy and energetic and positive and all that stuff. It literally, like we've talked about before, our brains are like a fertile field. What you put into it will come right back out.
And if there's one message that we can give people, it's that your brain is like a piece of soil. It will give back whatever you plant. I mean, we say this every show, and I think we should keep repeating it every show.
Sure.
Because it's a basic, just common sense. And, one of the problems, too, in the world today is we're making everything overcomplicated. Life isn't that complicated. For some reason or other, one of the things we got to give thanks for is that we're born with this body that, we don't really know what's going inside of it. I mean, we think we do, but we don't really know. We put food into our mouths, we drink water, and somehow this mess of organs, takes care of you, and it keeps you going for 80, 90 years. And so that's a miracle in itself.
Right.
So just think of that. You don't have to worry about that. Now, obviously, you shouldn't abuse it. Like you shouldn't abuse a car. You shouldn't abuse anything. So you shouldn't eat too much, because you're going to look like some of those people walking at Walmart that look like elephants instead of humans.
Oh boy.
You got a situation here where you have to use common sense.
Absolutely, no question about it. Well, friends, I think we've come to another end of a great podcast. The good news, even though as you look back on your own life and you think about things that you wish you had known years ago, and I know everybody that I've mentioned the title of this podcast to has been, oh, that's an interesting topic. Even though you may not have known it, it's never too late to apply these things to your life today. This too shall pass. It's okay to make mistakes and fail. Don't worry about what people think. Tell people you appreciate them. The golden rule, don't worry so much. Live one day at a time. You get what you think about. Be yourself, run your own race, and waste anything but time. You can apply those today.
And if 25 years from now you remember this, you'll be very thankful.
Absolutely. And one more quote. We're big on quotes, but the best time to plant a tree was 25 years ago and today.
Right.
No question. Norb, thank you as always.
Thank you, Al.
Always a pleasure. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.